Good evening, everyone, and we are live on air. I'm So Real, a host for Soldiers of God tonight, and tonight we are really just gonna go right into this. I often say to myself, it's interesting you yield your spirit to the work of God, the more God's workers. You know, tonight we have a very special, even call it a presentation, but tonight is actually a big culmination of a lot of background work that the Soldiers of God does. To this plenty of times, there are a lot of people who end up emailing us, have a lot of stories about their spouses, their loved ones into the IUIC cult. And oftentimes they do not tell you, or at least the IUIC does not tell you origin stories or the journey and process of an IUIC convert. They may tell you the top part. They may tell you the surface story about how people are being added to their monthly, yearly, whatever. But there's other parts that they really don't tell you about. They don't tell you about the long process of that convert, what they have to let go of. These conversations that we have had throughout these past 8.5 months with individuals that are basically all over the country are very striking to all of us. Me, Sister Cherry here, and other Soldiers of God members such as Marcus, all of us can attest that there's actually patterns to the IUIC, patterns of problems. It's one thing or an issue that's just a standalone issue, but then it's a whole nother thing to encounter a pattern of issues. That's what I want you guys to pay attention to tonight. Tonight we're actually going to be talking to two individuals from different states, but yet they actually suffer from the very similar, and if not the same, patterns with their spouses. Before I even getting them on the line here, because one of them is actually sending her little one to bed. One is here on my phone, and she is ready to speak. I just want to a little bit of something to think about. Um, Imagine if someone that you were really infatuated with, and you guys were together for a very long time, and you loved one another, you did everything together. One day, your loved one somehow gets caught up into something you really don't like or don't agree with. And the thing that breaks your heart the most is the damage that you see being done to them and the negative changes that you see them going through. So caught up in the hype of what they're infatuated with that they can't see the plain changes that they're actually going through. Now, of course, they would call it evolution, but the person that's looking from the outside in devolution, negative changes, right? They're not strengths, they're weaknesses, they're deficiencies. They're sinking, but yet they think they're rising. And imagine if that someone is your loved one. The game really does change when it comes to religion. And so, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start. And you guys are going to hear basically just from two individuals about their stories, about where they're at right now, and the real costs and the conversion of what it takes to be an IUIC member, and all the things that the way that the IUIC does not make very lively publicity about. And so right now I'm going to go ahead and just this individual is here, and I believe her name is Miss Mary. Miss Mary, are you there?
Yes, I am. How is everyone?
Everyone is wonderful. I definitely know that up here in Pittsburgh, it's pretty cold, and I just got done from walking out there in the snow,
Hey,
and I know
Sister
that.
Mary, how are you? God bless you.
Hey, Miss Cherry said, "How are you?" and God bless you.
I'm fine. Same to her.
All right. So, Miss Cherry, we're just gonna go ahead and get started. I just want to know just a little bit about you. First off, who are you, and just where are you from? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Mary. I'm from Augusta, Georgia, and I have 4 children. They are all adults, and I I'm a basic lady. I work every day, and I live a basic life. There's nothing special about my life except hey, it's my life. And I'm here tonight to talk with you and kind of give you my story. So in other words, I just call it, this is story time. And it's my journey. This will be my truth.
Yeah, and all of us, definitely have roles that all of us play in our stories, and I think that's what all really connects us, And so my next question is, about your story. First off, I just want to know, uh, what was your Christian background like? How did you actually get to come to know Christ?
Well, I mean, as a young girl, I was born and raised right there in New York City, and as a young girl, I recall, my mother getting me ready, going to church every Sunday or every other Sunday. I think it was like the second and the fourth Sunday. We went to church, and I didn't join church. Years had went by. It was an option that I had. My mother wasn't the type of going up there because you got to get baptized. No, I joined the church when I turned 16. And it was just all the years of going to church, all the years of being on the worship board, singing in the choir, doing the greeting committee, doing announcements. You name it, I've done it in the church. And like I said, I was 15, 16 years old when I joined the church. When the doors of the church opened up, and I got up on my own, and I went up to the pulpit, and I wanted to join the church.
Amen. And a lot of things that you were saying actually brought back a lot of memories when I was a kid. Because I got saved when I was 7 years old, and I was baptized when I was 13. And one thing I definitely remember, when I was baptized at 13, I remember I was at total peace for 3 days. I couldn't explain it. I kid you not. Like it was like I was barely hungry. I barely ate. I just remember being in this mode of peace for 3 days, and I felt like a newborn. And I remember after those 3 days were up, I had this real hunger to know, like, who is this Jesus? Who is this man, this God man? Who is this person? And from there, I began to read the Gospels a lot, and and then after that, of course, the rest is history. From the age of 7 onward, I had the whole experience of being on the mime team, know, New Generation Choir. I grew up in Trinity Church of God in Christ, so we were the Kojic kids, Pentecostal, you know, and it was great. You know, we had our Easter speeches where we had to, you know, remember whole chapters of you know, gospel books, and you know, it was just great. You know what I mean? You learn everything in church. You learn how to be an MC in church, you know, by giving a greeting. And so a lot of, yeah, and so a lot of, like, you know, traditions that we do, yeah, actually, you know, comes from church. You know, a lot of people who are talented today, they got their first start at singing in front of their congregation in church. And so I could definitely relate to that culture, you know. And
Yeah. As a child, some of your first your first acting roles were done in the church.
oh
You
yeah,
know, when you did the Christmas plays and things of that nature.
exactly.
It was for me, and I grew up Baptist. You know,
Mm,
but it was a wonderful thing. It
right.
was a wonderful thing. It taught you so much.
Exactly. And, you know, it also taught you the significance of things, the significance of seasons. You know what I mean? Anytime winter would come by, you know, first thing I think about is Christmas. Anytime the spring comes by, I think about Easter. You know, I think about the
That's right.
resurrection and newness of life, you know. And as I got older, when I thought about summer, I thought about the Holy Spirit, how the Holy Spirit fell on the church, you know, and it
That's right.
started the fire, started the blaze. And so I think that that's a beautiful way that you grew up in the Lord. And, you know, I definitely know that if I were to ask even more, you know, details, uh, you know, we would definitely be here all night. And so what I wanted to ask you next was, what was your Christian life like in your adult life? And tell me how you eventually maybe went through some relationships and eventually met your significant other.
Well, um, as I grew older, um, I would still continue to go to church. I would go. I didn't go every Sunday, and let's just be honest about it. I became a mother at 17, and having a baby
Hmm.
and still trying to stay in high school. Then I have a little part-time job. It was a lot, you know. So I found myself straying away from the church, and I was going on a every Sunday basis. Then I moved to going every, maybe second and fourth Sunday. Next thing I know, I was breaking it down. I was going maybe one Sunday out of the 2 weeks,
Hmm.
because now I had a job, then I had the baby, and I was still trying to do school and things of that nature. So I strayed away from the church. And once again, I'm not perfect, and I do fall short of glory every day. But always going back to church. And no matter how far I go from it, I always find my way back to the church. So, moving right along, I think maybe I was 25, maybe even 30. I found myself going back to church, but on a more consistent, more regular type of basis.
Mm.
I would go, and where I didn't go to church, I found myself doing Bible study a little more. Going to the Bible study services.
Mm.
Then it would be some Sundays if I didn't have, I was like, well, I don't work during that Saturday or what have you, and trying to, the baby having colic and things of that nature, because all kind of things coming around in our lives, So then my mother said, well, I tell you what, baby, I'm not going to church tomorrow. I'll keep the baby. Then I would go to church. When I left church, then I would go to work. Then I had things to be done on that Monday, So then I found myself straying away from the church some more. But again, no matter how long I strayed away, or no matter how far I went, I always found myself going right back to that church. So then, I think I was 35. My sister passed away.
I'm sorry to hear that.
My brother was working at a meat packing company here, and he had met several people or what have you. Again, keep in mind I was a single parent, so I went on ahead, and my brother came to me and says, "They're getting ready to do a trip to Florida. Would you like to go?" He said, "You deserve it. You need to go." And I said, "No, I don't have anybody to keep my baby." And he's like, "Don't worry about the baby. It's just for 2 days. Go ahead and take the trip." So I went on ahead and I took the trip. At that same time, my brother was preparing for a wedding. Not his wedding. He was going to be the best man in this wedding. So after my trip was over that weekend, when I came back, first thing I saw Monday morning, of course, was my brother bringing my baby home. So he was like, "I got to go to work." I'm like, "Well, did I make you late?" He's like, No. But this is what I need for you to do for me." I said, "What you need me to do?" He said, "I need you to find me this color right here," and it was peach. He said, "I need you to find me a peach cummerbund." I said, "Oh, peach." I said, "But I will try." So I took off. I didn't take off from work. I mean, just taking off, getting out there trying to locate this peach cummerbund. So I did find it. And then I said, "Well, who's getting married?" So then he told me who was getting married. I knew that was a best friend of his. So just jokingly, just carrying on, because I was nowhere interested in this man. Because I always said, it's my brother's best friend. You never look at your brothers in that notion, So I went on ahead. So then when I did meet the guy, I was like, "You really don't want to get married. This is not what you want to do. You need to come out here, get with a sister like me, and we're going to ride this thing right on out." So we laughed it off together, and I went on doing my own thing. But that's the way we met, So the wedding took place. Things, I guess, went south a couple of years later. Say like 2 years later, a year, maybe two later. But by this time, he had a child. So was reintroduced to him as just a single man. He was a single parent. He had a child. His child was like a year old. So, he and I, we got together, we kicked it, had a nice time. He would go to work. I would get the child, drop the child off at the babysitter, because I wasn't there to break his routine. Drop the child to the babysitter for him, or Richard. Then my car messed up, and he came. It was cold, raining, and the man came and he worked on my car in the middle of the night. And I thanked him, and I didn't know how to really thank him, because this is something he didn't have to do. His car wasn't messed up. So I asked him, "Why did he come, and why are you doing this?" I had no notion that the man could even work on a car. So I was thinking maybe he's just going to jump the car off, and that was okay, And it was a little deeper than that. What was wrong with my car? But do you know that man stayed right out there, and he worked on that car. And then even though it went into the wee hours of the morning, and I offered that he could stay at my house, he said no.
Wow.
He got his child, and he packed up, and he went home. In the process, after me asking him why, then he eventually said, before he actually pulled off from me, he said to me, "How can I want to be with you when I can't do nothing for you?"
Wow.
And that was a first. That was a first for me. Most brothers, they were with that slick talk stuff. You know, it would have been a perfect opportunity for them had I said, you can stay at my home this night.
Right.
They'd have been looking for a booty call because they'd have been looking for a repayment for them being out there staying out in the cold when it's raining working on my car.
Yeah.
Bright and early the next morning, although that man had to go to work, job at 6 in the morning, which means he had to get up at 4 because now he got a baby he got to pack up, he got to prepare food for, he got to get that baby to the babysitter, all of that. That man stopped by my house. He called me to see if I was up because I had to be to work at 7. That man called me and I said, oh yeah, I'm up. Well, next thing I know, he was at my front door. What was he there to do? We were going to drop the baby off to the babysitter. Since I get off, I got to be to work earlier than you, but I'm going to get off a little later than you. You take my car, drop me off at work, then you take my car and you go to your job.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of our relationship.
Solid.
That was the beginning of our relationship. And we rolled that thing right on out. My children, he helped raise those kids. My daughter was in elementary school. What, 3rd grade, 3rd, 4th grade? My baby girl was in elementary school. My son was in junior. He was just leaving elementary on his way to junior high. He raised those children. His daughter. We kept her until she was time for her to go to school. Then her mom stepped in. And she wanted to be the mother to her child. So there went his daughter. And then it was a constant battle back and forth, you know, of getting her, when we could get her and all that type of thing. Then it was the threats with the child support and all that kind of stuff. So pretty much what I'm saying is at that time, we had a whole lot of baby mama drama.
Yeah.
And at that time, he would get so angry about it. And I would always talk to him and talk him down. And I would let him know, you know, that baby's going to grow up. Don't ever think that she won't grow up and she can make her own decision, whether she wants to be with you or have you in her life or not.
Right.
Then we moved right on along. That child slowly, of course, you know, that baby grew up. All of the children grew up. My children accepted his daughter as their sister. She accepted my children as her sisters and her brother.
Amen.
So we, know, and it wasn't when we see people or people see us out and they were like, they hear my kids call him daddy, and they, how you know you have some more kids? He never said, oh, they're my stepchildren. All he ever said was, yeah, you know, yeah, I got some more kids. Then people trying to figure out, well, how old are you? Same thing with me. How you know you had another daughter? I'm like, yeah. I never once said that she was my stepdaughter. Because we had bonded and this was a family. You know, that's just the way it was. And we moved right along. And the next thing we knew, the years rolled by. He asked me to marry him the first time. I said no. Because, you know, I had been a single parent for so long. Right. I was accustomed to my lifestyle. I was accustomed to coming home, feeding my children, having myself something to eat, and just lounge around. I was accustomed to when I was going out, I did go out. And I was accustomed to not having to explain that to anybody.
Right.
I was accustomed to my mother getting my children to keep them for the weekend, and thank God it's Friday.
Yeah.
I was accustomed to my lifestyle. Then years went by. That man asked me to marry him again. I said no. Because I was still accustomed to my lifestyle.
Wow.
The years went by. And that man asked me to marry him again. And I told my mother. And my mother said, let me tell you something, young lady. You're getting older. Your children are growing and they're growing fast. You can't keep saying no. Do you love him? Do you care for him?
Hmm.
Does God have you? Do you have this gut instinct in you that this is what you can do? Do you think that you could marry this man? And I said, well, Mama, he is a really good man. He does. I mean, hey, what woman doesn't want a man that can throw down in the kitchen?
Hmm.
What woman doesn't want a man who don't have a problem with picking up the clothes behind the kids, picking up your dirty clothes too, and putting them in the machine and getting it started?
Mm-hmm.
What woman don't want that? Yes. And it didn't just work one way. When that man was at work, when he came home, his food wasn't being prepared. His food was prepared.
Hmm.
When I got up in the morning to get the children out to school, sitting on the bus, did I go get my tail back in the bed and lay it down? No, sir, I didn't. I got my behind back in the kitchen, and I started preparing supper. I would leave and go to work. That man got home before me.
Mm-hmm.
There was food ready to eat. It was done. Only thing that had to be done to it was warm it up. And that went on for years. But then again, the kids grow up.
Hmm.
Yeah. Everybody now is teenagers. They're out of school. Things of that nature. They moving on. We don't have no grandbabies.
Right.
It's just the children. They all moving on. They growing up. By this time, 18, 19, like sometimes 17. The kids, they start to eat on the go.
Right.
So you cook this big old meal and you just sit. Why? Y'all didn't eat no food. Mom, I got something on my way too. I got something when I went to such and such. So then you wind up putting the food in the refrigerator. Then you wind up eating it as leftovers. Then by that third day, nobody has eaten anything. You wind up throwing that away.
Hmm.
Then the kids, they growing on up. They not waiting. Time is not waiting. Those kids is getting up there. They getting out there.
Right.
So then along with my oldest daughter, she turned 20. I had my first grandbaby. I'm sorry. She turned 20 when she got pregnant. She was 20. All my children, I thank God for that. They were all grown. I was so angry. So angry. Did she come to me and tell me she was pregnant? No, she didn't.
Hmm.
She went to him and told him that she was pregnant. And his response to her was, well, I'm glad you told me that. But now, he would listen to her, whatever she had to say. And then after it was all said and done, he said, well, now that you told me, now you need to tell your mother. Go tell your mother.
Hmm.
Although he would tell me that they had this talk,
Mm-hmm.
but he allowed her to tell me, Mommy, look, I'm pregnant. And I was angry, so angry, that my baby was pregnant. So what did I do? I went to my mother. And my mother says, well, what in the world? I say, yeah, she's pregnant. And she said, well, we are supposed to, as parents, have high hopes for our children.
Mm-hmm.
We supposed to. She said, but let me tell you something, young lady. Look at it this way. She did better than you. And I said, Mama, what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
She said, look at when you were 17, you was having a baby.
Hmm.
She's a grown adult woman. She's no longer in school. So what are you angry for? loved her up. He loved her up.
Mm-hmm.
We were anticipating this grandbaby, and the baby came. Then the years went by. In 1999, 2000, I think it was right at 2000. Maybe between 2000 and, I'm going to say 2003. That man asked me to marry him again. And he did it up. You know, he sung my favorite song and everything. Big old family gathering. It was just family. At my niece's house. Nobody expected it. It was right out the blue. But then they plotted it up for the singing part. He asked me to marry him, and I said yes. And at that moment, I'll never forget that day, because I let that brother know, you in this one for the long haul.
Right.
This will be it. This is going to be it. You here for the long haul. And we went on. We got married 2005. 2005.
Beautiful.
I'm working, you know, at my little job, and I wouldn't trade my job for anything in the world, you know, because it has helped me in so many ways within my life, within my lifestyle. I learned patience. I learned how to be empathetic, you know.
Right.
I learned how to assist people. I learned how to do so many things with my job. And so many of the things that, you know, within my job, I can use in my personal life. And I've done that. I've used the things from my job. And my job, I prayed for. I'm getting off of the interstate. Right by my house. I'm getting off of the interstate. And I sat there and I prayed for the Lord to send me a job that will offer me somewhat security, somewhat where I can have some benefits. I was tired of working deadbeat jobs that wasn't going to offer me anything. Didn't even offer me a 401k.
So let me ask you, you know, just to, you know, move things right along. I wanted to ask you, you know, it seems that so many hurdles and beautiful moments of your life with your husband, and you know the patience that he had to have, you know, despite all of these overcoming qualities and the patience that he had to have for you, and the struggles and the problems that came along with, you know, raising a family, despite all that he worked so hard for, what was some of the first steps toward him being to where he is now? Where did this journey all of a sudden begin to take this different turn?
Well, after he received his kidney transplant, which was a very long journey, and he received his kidney transplant, he started doing it's not really side work, it's like a little overtime work with his job.
Right.
And areas that, you know, the Hebrew Israelites would frequent, there would just happen to be one of his stores. So he got to see these people on a regular basis, you know. And I'm assuming, you know, he spoke with them probably on different occasions and things of that nature. And then, you know, he came home one evening when I got off that night. We were sitting around talking or what have you. And he was telling me about, you know, these brothers. He's like, I don't know who they are, but, you know, I was listening to them talk. And, you know, they was talking about, I said, well, what are they talking about? Well, they're talking about the Bible. I'm like, okay. And mind you, before he came to tell me this about the Hebrew Israelites, he got baptized. And he got baptized as a Mormon, you know. So, and from his own admission, he didn't grow up like I did. So I understood that. He didn't grow up in the church. Yes, his mother may have took him to different churches and things of that nature, but he didn't have a church home, you know. So he got baptized a Mormon, and then back and forth with going back and forth doing his job within the store, he met these guys, and I guess, you know, like you said, you know, they was talking about the Bible and getting know within the Bible and things of that nature. So I would listen to. The next thing I know, he was gonna go to one of the meetings. So I couldn't go, and I told him, I said, well, research these people. I said, because I don't recall ever hearing about them. They just popping up out of nowhere. Is this a religion? I mean, what is it? And he was like, well, yeah, you know. I said, well, I don't know if that's a religion. I said, because I never heard of that being a religion. I said, are you sure that this is not an organization or something? He was like, no, they got a church. I said, you know, so as it played on through, I started asking, where's their church? Then I found out that they were meeting at someone's home. You know, they didn't have an actual church building. So then he started, you know, saying, well, they having, I think it's called Camp 101. They having Camp 101. You gonna go? And I would say things like, well, I might, you know, things of that nature. But it just didn't sit right with me. It just wasn't. It wasn't a good feeling that I was having about it. So then I know this was, you know, it's call him. You know, I'm by him at work. I'm stopping by to get something to eat. Call him and ask him, you know, you want something to eat? No, I mean, the kids all grown. Nobody there but me and him. So you want something to eat? He would tell me, or wouldn't call back. Then, or if he did call back or text, he would say something along the lines of, I'm getting this word, I'm getting this knowledge. I'm like, okay. So he would never answer my question. And the question was, did you want me to pick you up something to eat?
Right.
So he would never answer my question because he was getting the knowledge, he was getting the word, this truth. I'm like, okay. So then that went on. And it went on, and it went on, and it went on, and it went on, and it went on. Then it was pretty much, I didn't talk to my husband at all.
Now this was on, you know, one day out of the week, or just all of a sudden, eventually, daily.
Daily. My husband and I would communicate with each other daily on an everyday basis. If we didn't communicate for that day, one of us will wind up texting the other. So you don't want to talk to your wife today? And then we would get like a LOL. Then we get that response. Then we wind up where I would take me a break or a few minutes, and we go. I mean, I would go and we would sit and literally verbally listen to each other's voices. But no, this turned into Texas about the truth, about the knowledge, or I just say, well, are you okay out there? And I would get things like, I'm at McDonald's, bird, okay? Or I'm at over by the Goodwill, I'm getting this truth. You know, things of that nature. Then it was, I guess when they would go and meet it at people's houses or what have you, you know, it was always, he's getting his knowledge or whatever. And eventually, there were no texts. There were no phone calls. My husband was slowly but surely disappearing. So then I would text things like, are you okay?
Right.
And then I would get things, answers back like, why you ask that? Like, because I can clearly see that there's something going on with you, but you are pretty much just won't discuss it with me. I mean, I just need to know if you're okay. And then he wouldn't respond. There was no response. You know. So then after that, it was he come in 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
He would wake me up out my sleep, and then it'd turn into a knockdown, drag out argument because I didn't know my lineage. I didn't know who I was. I don't know my I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know who I was. You know, I said I do know who I am. Well, who are you? And I would tell him who I was. You know, no, you're not. See, you're part of that 2/3. You going to hell and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, what in the world? What? You woke me up at this time in the morning to tell me what? That I don't know who I am, and I don't know my lineage and my heritage and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is just mad crazy.
You know, let's
And I
just
have to,
slow that down and just really just stop and take a look at that. You have your husband who would communicate with you all the time, and the moment that he got caught into the the cult, the communication was cut, and no one what he was, you know, actually coming in line with. You know, the communication was totally cut. And so he was being fed these things to the point where he came in at 3 a.m. to
yes.
argue with you.
And then not only that, there were times when he would come in. I mean, this is a man who's been living in his home for 5 years or right at 4 years or so. And you know, you have an alarm system. You know how many times that man has put that alarm code in, and then you come in pretty much sloppy drunk and set the alarm off in the home. How you do that?
Hold on.
But
That's another thing too. Now, because I was under the impression that, you know, when you look at the Bible, drunkenness,
I
they
do the same
say,
thing.
is a sin. I mean, I think
Yes,
that's really obvious. You know, that's one of the works of the flesh in the New Testament. This is ABC 1, 2, 3 stuff. But you're telling me that, you know, your husband, who came into all this deep knowledge and all these things that he poured over his time and energy to learn, you mean to tell me at first he came in at 3 a.m. angry, and then the second time he came in late, he came in drunk, and this couldn't possibly be from the place that he's getting knowledge in. I mean, I've heard of, you know, interesting phrases like drunk in the spirit, or, you know, when people are really in the spirit of the Lord. But to go to, I'm assuming at this point he was at the congregation where they congregate at, and he came away from that place not sober. He
drunk,
came away from that place drunk.
drunk in the spirit of the liquor bottle, honey. Yes,
And
yes,
they believe
and
in.
that still happens. So that still happens.
Well, wait. When you say that
Yeah.
that still happens, you're not just talking about your husband. You're actually talking about the IUIC inside the, like, where they congregate at.
They not. He ain't the only one drinking. I'm very sure of that. He spent too much money buying alcohol to say he's the only one drinking it.
Hold on, let me get this straight. Now, this is a church, mind you. Like, where in the world would it be okay and actually be drunk? Like, where inside of a church where they would, where would they drink?
Honey, I guess anywhere they want to. See, I don't go there, I don't go to whoever's house, because I didn't want any part of it. But now, if it's a lie, it's his lie. It's his lie that they're at whoever's home. So it's like they say, it's an Israelite party.
That's really interesting. I personally don't see how it could be okay to congregate as quote unquote believers and do whatever spiritual or religious practices that you do, but then I guess somehow during the end of it or whenever it's over, you turn up and basically drink and get drunk. That just doesn't compute. That just doesn't make sense to me as to why the members actually do that. But once again, that's very telling because we are to be under the bondage of no sinful thing, and yet they are actually practicing the works of the flesh. I'm not sure how they would think that that's totally okay. So, but just to move the story along here, so now he's in the beginning stages of getting all this knowledge, and now he's, to your surprise, coming home drunk, and from there, what had happened then? What were some other really just cause you to really get more, try to put more attention toward, his devolution into the IUIC.
He was during that time, home one wee hour of the morning, I guess it was about again between 2 and 3, and he came in and he said to me, and I was woke this time. I wasn't asleep. I was woke. That they were going on. He was going on just to say a trip. He was going with them to Atlanta. So I hadn't heard from him all day long. So I was like, "Hey, I'm just checking. Are you okay out there? Did you guys make it? I didn't know how this thing was, because like I said, I was saying. So I just looked at it as a bunch of men getting together, So he texted me back and he said that they were on their way back. I'm like, okay. So when he got there, I was not asleep. When he came in and he made it to the bedroom, my husband said to me, if I lay with you, then I'm married to you. I need a piece of paper to say that you my wife. And that thing rocked me. So I was like, what? This is what I'm saying to myself.
Wow.
What is he talking about? The next thing I know, let's say weeks moved on. My oldest child had come back home, and then they moved out. So he was straightening up that back bedroom and getting it, cleaned up and everything, and switching out mattresses and stuff like that. And the next thing I know, he started bringing things like the bag, because it's winter time. Like I have a bag, I put like my boots and things in and stuff like that. Zip it up, put it in a walk-in closet. Things out of that back room into the bedroom. So pretty much, you moving slowly but surely. You moving my things out of there. So I said, why are you bringing all this stuff in here? And he made a comment and he said, because it's yours. I said, well, yeah, you're right about that. So I just made a new space to put the stuff. Then I noticed he wasn't unusual for my husband to fall asleep, listen to stay in the bed, and I'm in the bed. Then I go and wake him up, or when he wake up, woman, you left me in the den by myself sleep. I said, well, I'm sorry, you were resting really well.
Right.
So I would go back to the back room and I would wake him up and say, oh, so you're not sleeping in your bed tonight? And he was like, oh, I'm coming. And I go in the room and get in the bed. I wake up in the morning and he wasn't there.
Wow.
I go back in the back room and that's where he slept. Then that went on for a while. You know, so I was like, So then my daughter, the baby girl, she would say, son sleeping in the back room.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I have no idea. She said, you doing my baby wrong. You ain't waking him up. I said, no, ma'am, I'm waking him up. I said, but he's choosing to sleep back there. She said, Mom, what's going on? I said, I have no earthly idea. I said, but it'll get real soon. So then my husband came in, I think it was like in June. And mind you, all of this is taking place in 2016.
Right.
After February of 2016, all of this is taking place. His first meeting was right before the Super Bowl Sunday. And it started from there. So we're going to move right along. We're going to say we're in May now.
Right.
May. So we're going to move right along. The last time that I actually sat with my husband, ate a meal, we laughed, we joked, just the two of us in the home, was in late May, early June. By the time we made it to mid-June, my husband was acting real stank. Real stank. Then come June, my baby girl's birthday is on the 30th, the end of the month. So I think it was like maybe that 27th or the 28th. We went out to dinner. Took her out to dinner, her siblings and myself. Right, and so when I was done, I went to the house. I need to go back. My husband stopped working his little part-time, or not part-time, his overtime. Because he was going, stock the stores on the weekend, on the Saturday.
Right.
And then they gave him a Pacific stores that he could do on those Sundays. Now, mind you, on them Saturdays, they weren't mandatory for him to do. This was just extra money if he chose to do it.
Right.
Okay, so it wasn't a mandatory thing. So that's why I said we would call it overtime. So then he stopped doing that. And I noticed he stopped doing it. So in the end of June, like I said, around about the 27th or the 28th, I came in from the dinner and I went back there to the back room and like I always do, hey, how are you today? Or how was your day? And he says to me, woman, because he always call me woman. He said, woman. I'm like, what? I just want to let you know I'm strapped for cash. What you mean you strapped for cash? Okay. Well, since everything that we talk about and anything you say to me is an abomination and it's all biblical, I thought the Bible said if a man doesn't work, a man doesn't eat.
Right. Exactly.
So, okay, you being strapped for cash is my problem. How? We pay the bills. The bills get paid. You're not just paying bills here. We pay these bills. So I just went on by my business, and then he followed me up the hall or whatever, and then he get to telling me that I'm a rebellious black woman, and that's when he told me I had to call him my Lord and Savior, and all this. And like I told him, I'm sorry, unfortunately, you bumped your head because you do not have a heaven nor an hell that you can put me in. No, I must bow down to him. I got to be submissive to him and all of this. all of this stuff, darling, you are my husband. You are not my Lord and Savior. I'm sorry. Stop trying to live the dream world, or stop trying to live up to the Joneses where you may have gone to some of these people's houses and them wives is calling their husbands Lord.
You know what? That's another interesting take there. You said that during, right, you said that during the
Mm-hmm.
time of maybe April, May,
Mm-hmm.
his attitude began to sharply change. You said it,
Yes.
it became stank. Now you didn't say
Yes.
exactly why, but of course we all know what the details of that pan out to be. But now, as summer approaches, he cuts a good portion of his income, and yet wants to bolster his authority over you as husband by actually having you call him Lord and Savior. So
Yes.
he's losing his economic power, to provide as a man, and yet he's trying to now push his spiritual position and status at the same time. Sometimes I look at what the enemy does, and it's as if it's pretty much like a cruel joke. And once
Yes.
again, they're so blind as to these simple steps that are really going on in plain sight, and yet it is going over their heads. I just really wanted to point that out, as you are so masterfully just showing the tragic devolution of this man. That all these things are playing out piece by piece, season by season, month by month, and yet he's not putting the pieces together. And
No.
yet to the rest of us, it is so plain to see. It's pretty sad. But now you're in June, you say. So I wanted you to
Yes.
just kind of continue on. I just wanted to point that out there, though.
Yes. But and in that same night, I let him know, that I understand that you are trying to get into this thing this group that you're trying to join. But what is not going to happen is I will not be bullied. I will not be manipulated. You can't force anything on me. That's not going to happen. You're into this, then that's fine. But I'm not. And that's going to be fine too. I said, because you're into this on your own free will. Nobody's making you join this. That's when I was informed that he couldn't be a full-fledged member if I didn't join, because
Oh
biblically
no!
we are to be as one.
Oh no!
Biblically, I was made from your rib. Biblically, you are over me. Biblically, I'm supposed to do what you say do. I said, and that's how a great deal of women wind up listening to their husband. Well, we going to blow up this building today. Okay, Lord, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen.
Right.
I said, but God also gave me common sense. He gave me free will. And my free will choice is not to join what you're in. I don't know what it is. You haven't explained it. Anytime I say, well, just tell me what they do. I said, well, these people don't have children. Y'all up. I mean, you coming in at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning talking about you just leaving camp 101. These people don't have kids. Their kids don't go to school. Oh, they don't send their kids to the white man's school. No, what do they call it? Edomites. They don't send their kids to Edomites or Esau or somebody. They don't send their kids to that school. They homeschool their children. I said, So the kids can be allowed to be up all night? Who teaches them if everybody sleep in the morning? I said, well, that's neither here nor there, because that's our business. My children don't go there. But my husband informed me that I had to be I had to come in order for him to be a full-fledged member. I said, I ain't never heard nothing like that. I said, but no, thank you. So then it was they having I guess meet and greet or what, I don't know what it's called, but they do something at the hotel,
Right.
you know, where anybody can come or whatever. So anytime I came up and I said, you know what, Mary, just go and just see what it's about.
Right.
Just go one time and see what it's about.
Yeah.
He would hit me with, well, you're going to have to cover your head and you got to wear a long dress with fringes on it. I said, no, I won't be going. I said, because, well, why? I said, because if for me to be covering my head and putting on long dresses and putting fringes on, I feel like I'm pretending. I'm giving these people a false belief that they have gotten themselves a new member. I said, no.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to do.
Right.
Now, if I'm going to check it out to try to see if this is something I'm interested in, I should be able to go in my regular old street clothes.
That makes
sense. Why should I have to put on a costume?
Right.
No, I'm not. I said, that is for members. I'm not a member. I'm just going to listen. But if you can't go, I said, okay, no problem. So he could never tell where he could, but he would be lying if he said it. She never was interested. She never decided to attempt to go and check it out or whatever, because that would be a lie. I did that on several occasions. But at every time you tell me I have to cover my head and I got to wear the long dresses and all stuff like that, that's not so.
Right.
So I didn't go. So then the one time that I said, well, I'm going today. I said, but I'm going to drive my own vehicle, because when I'm ready to leave, I'll be ready to leave, and it doesn't have to stop you or hinder you. You can stay. I can just leave. That brother told me once I went in, I couldn't leave. I said, what you mean I can't leave? I couldn't leave until it was over with. I said, well, who's supposed to stop me from leaving? I said, well, they know I'm not going. Somebody, they got people guarding the door. What? I guess they call the watchman or something like that. I'm like, well, what they watching out for? Is something going on crooked? Did they got to be outside looking for the police or something? What they looking for? I said, well, no, I'm not going. I said, because that sounds like I'm being held hostage. For you to tell me that I cannot leave. You don't know I'm a supervisor. Anything could be happening at my place of employment. I'm still responsible for certain things. I'm not just a part-time supervisor. I'm a full-time supervisor. That's why I have a state sale. So if that phone goes off, my job is to answer it. So, and if something happens, you tell me I cannot leave. So I wasn't interested. That was another thing that just did not pique my interest. So then my husband started doing, I'm assuming, I'm going to call it this because this is what I see it to be. My husband started showing a lot of narcissistic behavior. Okay? So then we would use all of the tactics. And it's going to take us right on out the end of 2016. My husband started using all of the tactics. I don't know if this elders were giving him these tactics, the brethren were giving him these tactics, but they just didn't work for me. They didn't work for me. I deal with this every day. Every day. So my husband started doing the non-communication. Then we start, you don't talk to me. Well, don't talk to her then. She'll bow. She'll break. Then with the name calling. Well, she cried. She weak. She's emotional. That type of stuff. Well, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Then, doing the what we call it, the cord cutting tactics. You do absolutely nothing for her. Don't do nothing for her. And my husband did all of these things.
Right.
Then my husband got to the point where just go and come as you please. Dare her to ask you where you're going or what you're getting ready to do. You don't have to tell her nothing. And my husband did that too. Get up in the morning, he leaves. Not say I'm gone or I'm going to lock the door or any of that stuff. You just get up and go. Come when you get ready to come on back to the house. But then again, that falls up under that. If your woman is if you telling your woman or your wife for those of y'all that's married, for those of y'all that got the wives that you got to tell where you going and when you coming back. For those women right there.
Right.
You got to check your woman. You got to check your wife. You need to get them in order. That's out of order. She's not supposed to ask you these things. So, you come and you go as you please. I'm to have no opinion. I'm to have no say-so. If I have an opinion, then if I give it to you, and it's good and it works for what your situation is at that moment,
right?
And it goes with your so-called doctrine. I was in a conversation just the other day, and I was saying, well, maybe I helped my husband leave, because when he needed his apocrypha, when he needed his Bible dictionary, do you think he was the one looking for those things? He told me what he needed. He didn't look for them. He didn't look for them. I looked for them.
Wow.
I got them for him. So I helped build up another foundation. Now realizing they were cutting away at his foundation. Because the foundation got to be weak. You got to chip away at the foundation. You got to make sure you can get everybody any kind of support on your side that's going to stand flat-footed and firm and say, oh, no, devil, you ain't taking mine. They got to chip away at that. That must go. Your friend, you going to have those brothers, you going to have them. They ain't going to hang around you because you getting this truth. You getting this knowledge. You walking this walk. They don't want to have nothing to do with you. You have that person, that individual that you trying to indoctrinate. You having those people cut friends that they've been friends with for 40 years and then some. They know the good, the bad, and the ugly about you. They got to cut away at the family. They got to cut away at the co-workers. Anybody who's going to say, hey, so real, what's going on with Mary? Then eventually, people just start asking about you. They stop. So moving right along. Then all of those things didn't work for my husband. So I guess maybe I'm just only making an assumption here. So I guess maybe you went back and said, hey, look, me not talking to her is not working.
Right.
Because if I had something I needed to ask him, I still asked him. If I had something that I wanted to walk in the house and say, how was your day? I still asked him. But then, people have a tendency to start to give what they receive. I get up in the morning, make a cup of coffee. Husband, are you having coffee this morning? Whether it was yay or nay. But if it was yay, I said, well, I'm making, so you want to make yours too? He said, yes. I made that cup of coffee. I've done it for years. For years, make that cup of coffee. If he said, no, he wasn't getting that. Okay, I just made my own. Then when the Saturdays will roll around, you can't be cooking. You can't be doing this. So he buying the cold coffee, like iced coffee, frappuccino or something like that. That Starbucks coffee. You buy that and put it in the refrigerator. So, I try to, just like everybody did when he was doing the dialysis thing. Everybody switched and tried to grow accustomed to, we're going to do how he does so we can encourage him to stay on the right track with the things he had to do as far as the dialysis, the diet, and all of that. So we all did it as a family. You know what I'm saying? So we try to do that same thing with him joining in this little organization. Okay, you don't want to eat pork. It's okay. I've been knowing people for years who don't eat pork. My daughter-in-law, when my son married her, she didn't eat pork. So we learned how to adapt with that as well. Okay, so slowly but surely, we stopped cooking pork. No problem. Stop. So don't want to make coffee on the Saturdays and stuff like that. Not a problem. We started. Well, I say we. I'm talking about me. Since she would buy the Starbucks cold iced coffee, so I would drink that instead.
Right.
Did he notice it? No, he didn't. You know why he didn't notice? Because he's too busy looking, he couldn't see. He was so busy looking, he couldn't see at all. No, he couldn't. So then, alone. Then, of course, I've been washing his clothes for years. We had a standard area where we put the dirty clothes. Well, remember, you do absolutely nothing for her. That's not a problem for me. It's not a problem. I did for myself because remember, at the beginning of this story, I was a single mother for years. So I'm accustomed to doing for me. So he started putting his clothes on my dirty clothes. This was a centralized place, and we always put the dirty clothes. He started putting his dirty clothes with my dirty clothes. He would put his dirty clothes all the way in the back of the house. Well, I didn't go back there rambling through nothing. So I figured, okay, well, he gonna bring his dirty clothes up to the laundry room at least. He didn't do that. But that was another tactic. So you could come up with, oh, so now I got to wash my own clothes. You won't even wash my clothes. Now you got to find things that you can say I'm doing wrong. I said, well, no, your clothes wasn't in the laundry room. You didn't put them there. Oh, so now I got to put my clothes in the laundry room. Well, you chose to stop putting them in the centralized place where the dirty clothes go. And see, that was a tactic to make my little bit of work a hard job. We never had no dirty dishes in the sink. We had a dishwasher. We rinsed the dishes, put them in the dishwasher. Got turned on right before we got ready to go to bed at night. That's what you would hear in the house, sound of the dishwasher. Well, you stop doing that. Nobody in the house but you. I'm working. Nobody's there but you. Why would I have to come home to a sink full of dishes? Why? Well, you've done it for years. Rinse those dishes and just put them in the dishwasher. But you think you're making my job hard. Because you know it bothers me to come home to see you take the dishes. So you're going to make my job hard. I put my bag down, step out my shoe, and before I even went to my room, I go ahead and either wash the dishes, depending on how many of them they were, or I would just rinse them and load the dishwasher. And I'm going around into my little room and think about that thing. And say to myself, this is getting worse. No matter how much I try to add a little light to it, this is getting worse. But then the darkness in him got so darker, and it got darker, and it got darker. Till I'm literally making a man suicidal. So I had an epiphany one morning. I got up, getting ready to come to work. And when my feet hit the floor, so real, Spirit jumped on me and said, got a little bag and everything, throw the bag on my shoulder, got a little lunch from the food the night before he didn't eat. I took it for work the next day for lunch. I got to the front door, reached something to get my key or something, and the food fell right out my hand at the front door. So now I got, of course, the bowl just come right open. So now I got to put the bag down in the chair. That was I looked at it as that was the Lord's way of showing me that. Because I told you to do something. I told you to do something. So now I got a mess. I put my bags down, put everything right there in the chair. Now I gotta go get the broom. I got to sweep up all the food and get it in the dust and in the trash can. So now I gotta go back to the kitchen and all this good stuff. And all at the same time. Like Beckett said, get the guns out the house. So when I finished doing all of that, I got the little mop and did a quick little damn mop, get that there up. And I started for the front door. And I put the bags down. And I went back to my room. And I got not one, but I removed 2 guns from my home. And I said, why? I'm not afraid of my husband. I am not afraid of my husband. Do I think that he's going to do something to me? No, I didn't. I drove those guns to my parents' house. And I had my father put them in his gun safe. And there's only one person with a key for that gun safe, and that would be my father. I did. And I pulled up in the driveway. I feel tears rolling. I pulled up in the driveway. And I opened up my door. And my mother came to her door. And I broke down. I literally broke down. My father came running out there. Sugar, babe, what's wrong? I said, I need you to put these guns up. Is he acting like a damn fool? I said, no, he's not. I said, but Mommy's spirit is on me so bad this morning. She said, baby, you did the right thing. So real, I took those guns out of my home. And as the time went by, that week went by, and I kept asking, why? Why did I need to take these guns out of my house? They've been in my home for years now. And I never had the inkling that my husband would do something to me. And Lord knows I didn't. My husband had tried to get me a gun because of the hours that I work. And because of the time frames that I have to come home. And I said no. But at that moment, I had the urge, and like I said, the Spirit just led me. Get the guns out my house. So as that week went by, and I needed to know why I needed to get those guns out of my home. And then it came to me. It wasn't so much that I was afraid that my husband was going to do something. It was not that I was afraid that I would have to do something to my husband. I was more afraid of my husband becoming suicidal. And that was the last thing in the world I ever wanted to go home and find that my husband had killed himself because of the hatred and the darkness in his heart. I mean, I'm so sorry. I have never cried like this. This so hard to this present moment right now. That was my most sincere. It's that my husband was going to kill himself. The hatred that had built up in my husband as a group. I don't care if it's a church. I don't care if it's an organization. I don't care what it is. That you are so greedy, so evil, and so demonic that you swear that you are righteous. Please, somebody tell me, where is the righteousness to steal a person from his family? Where is the righteousness that you would be so conniving in selling these people a dream? You can't give them no kingdom. Stop lying to these people. They literally got people out here ready to die because they think they're getting a kingdom. You idiots. You idiots. The kingdom that the Lord is talking about is not made by man's hand. What the hell make you think you gonna get a kingdom? You ain't getting no kingdom. And you think you got knowledge. Your problem is you talk too much. If you stop talking, you can learn something. Stop stealing from people. Because you ain't robbing nobody. You are not robbing anybody. You are a bunch of damn thieves. You stealing. You stealing from the children. You stealing from the wives. You stealing from the mothers. You stealing from the fathers. You are stealing from people. You stealing their spirit. You stealing their hopes. You stealing their damn souls. I'm so sorry, Sophia. This is not what I meant to do on your show. Somebody today. And I wasn't angry with my husband. I said I wasn't angry with my husband. I was highly disappointed in him. Because my husband was a person that could recognize the game 100 miles or yards away. Game. But this right here, this part right here, because I never talked about that part. I never told nobody about that part. It was just an eye opener. I just received my aha moment. And I am angry. I am upset. Because you're stealing from folks. And you're using the Lord to do it. You're just twisting his word all over kinds of ways. But the one thing, you may have taken my husband away. That you may have done. You may have stolen my husband away. But there's one thing. I don't care about any negative comments. I don't care about cussing. I don't care about she's a queen. I don't care about she's a white man's bitch. I don't care about none of that. Thing that I know that you could never, ever take away from Miss Mary is what you hear me saying right now. Because guess what? For all my lovely Israelites, sisters and brothers, I hope you're edified. This is my journey. This is the story I got to tell. Because this is the truth that I'm living. This is the walk that I got to walk. You can't take that away. And there's, I know, if it's not a 5 of us, or it's 105 of us, but that man, it can be 5,000 of us. We got stories to tell. We got stories to tell. We got stories to get out there. We need people to know what they are going for. We need people to know that the walk that they are walking, there is somebody out there that has walked, maybe not the same exact story, maybe not the same exact journey, but we all Remember, we are talking about man's law. We don't talk about God's law. In the eyes of the Lord, he's supposed to do what? He leave his mother and his father, he's supposed to cleave to his wife. Okay. What God has joined together, let no man put asunder. All right. So, my husband is guilty for letting the men come between him and his wife. He's allowing that to happen. Along with that, he wants to put me away. But he's putting me away for no just cause. I never committed fornication. I never committed adultery. So he's committed sin. One, he put me away for no just cause. Neither of those two. Then secondly, I guess what? When our divorce was final, maybe 6 months or so, he left to do this big thorough thing, finding that old modest Hebrew Israelite woman. Then they got to do this big brothel for 6 months. Then 6 months, I guess they'll do some kind of whatever kind of union or something to join them together. Well, she may not even realize, or she may not even look at, well, we just gonna talk about the man's law. He divorced his wife. Well, she may be naive. She may not even be aware that he could give her the hell. Right along with him, you're ruining lives. Because in the eyesight of the Lord, you are still my husband. Because you didn't do your letter or paper or writing of divorcement. You didn't do that according to the Lord's will. You didn't do it according to the Lord's law. But you're doing these statute laws and commandments. You ain't doing it right. See, y'all don't care. Once again, y'all taught me so much. Amongst all this knowledge you get, you ain't getting no understanding in none of it. Because you putting me away for no just cause, which is adultery and fornication. Lord, you are still my husband. So
Surreal, can I,
6 months and all that good stuff. And anybody can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. You can still do this little bit wrong.
Oh, just one moment. Just one moment. Mama Cherry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm glad she brought that up. Miss Mary, you are absolutely correct in everything that you said. To the ladies and gentlemen, um, yes, Miss Mary is quoting from Matthew chapter 19, where Jesus spoke to everyone, disciples, even the Pharisees, Sadducees, all of them. And it reads here real quick, Matthew chapter 19, verse 5. And it says, "For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall twine and become one flesh." Verse 6, "Wherefore where there is no more twine, but one flesh, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder." Verse 7, "They say unto him, Why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and put her away? And he said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffer you to put away your wives. But from the beginning, it was not so." And here's the kicker. "And I say unto you," this is Jesus talking now, "whosoever shall put
Right.
his wife away, except it be fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. And whosoever married her which is put away, doth commit adultery." So yes, Miss
Mm,
Mary, you are absolutely correct. That is in the Bible. And what the IUIC has done, along with the other Hebrew Israelite movements that are doing this, um, they're breaking the law. And literally, they dumb down on the law and say, "Oh, it's about keeping the law, statutes, and commandments." Well, James chapter 2, verse 2:10 clearly says, "When you have broken one law, you have broken them
Broken
all."
them all.
And so, when you do become, and it seems as Brother Cyril and Sister Mary, what they have indoctrinated these men um, so much that the IUIC has become their God, which is
Right.
idolatry. Once again, um, Cyril, you're an apologist, and I know you will know this. So, I mean, you could definitely correct me if I'm wrong. Where idolatry is breaking the law, it's a sin. Um, so, yeah, Miss Mary, you are absolutely correct in everything that you have said. Um, your husband has committed a sin. And see, here's the thing I wanted to point out. What they don't go and tell you is by this order of operation that they tell the men that they can do this by giving their wives 1 year to join this thing. Um, and then they put the wife away and leave the children destitute, etc. Um, yes, Miss
Mm,
Mary is correct. See, man's law does not outweigh God's law. So technically, and she is right, in God's eyes, Mary and her husband are still married. Okay? They are still married. So if he goes in and wastes a 6 month period and all that other crazy stuff and takes another wife, and he's still technically married to Mary, yes, he would be committing adultery, which is sin, which is leading him down to the road to hell. I just wanted to, point out. She can go ahead and finish, and we can expound on the rest.
right. Sister Mary, you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Right. So, I'm checking for the time here. And as much as I would love to continue this, we may actually have to, continue this as a part two,
Yeah, we'll have
you
to.
know, but right. So I wanted to just allow you to just have just some final words and a wrap up of everything that you just shared with us today. If you could pretty much just sum it all up, all the things that you've experienced, your husband actually go through, and where he is right now. You know, how would you sum up all of these experiences? And for the people that are out there listening who are actually in this, what would you say to them?
Wow. Um, I say to them, that they need to wake up. I mean, stop trying to sell these people a dream. I mean, and above everything else, for to sell people a dream. Because things are going to happen, and it's not that the Lord is dealing with you. This is going to happen. Death is going to happen. And just because a person doesn't believe what you believe, stop trying to bully people into believing it. Manipulate people into believing what you believe. You chose not to eat pork at your own free will, judge other people. You chose to wear what the clothes that you wear. You chose to wear that. Wearing a skirt don't mean it got to have fringes on it. You choosing to do everything that you choose to do. People have the right to choose what they want to choose. I'm trying to tell people to walk away from they may have a newborn baby. Stop trying to tell people to walk away from their homes. You're supposed to be so coming from at a one-sided way. No, let's open up the doors. Let's look at it from all perspectives. Kids that grew up in this stuff, and as soon as they could get away, they got away. You got husbands who their wives have left them just cold hard, just walk away from them. So we got men out here too that this thing is affecting. Come men. Love myself some black brothers, but our men, they feel that they got to be the manly man. They can't let nobody know this thing bothers them. You don't mind. I would like to challenge some people. It may not be for you, but you listening. You may not even have nothing to do with any of this. You might think this is all a game. This is really hilarious to you. So neighbor, it may be the honest thing for her. It may be a comforting thing for her to hear that somebody else is going through this. For your coworker standing beside you on your job, it may be an honorable thing for you to tell him, hey, your brother, check this out. These people out. Because I feel like you might be going through something. People only going to tell you what they need you to know about them or what they think you should know about them. But deep down inside, how many of them got swords stuck in them? From my lovely brother or sister. You know, I mean, so it would be great. I'm going to stop right there. I'm not going to go no more.
Yeah.
And it would be great if you could do another. But people, we need to get this out here. Again, talk to any of the people that's with the soldiers of God. Again, I challenge people, male and female. If you have been affected in any way, you can be light, male or female. And you ready to get up out that thing. So, put your story out there. There's more people out here that's been affected. It's not just 100 people. It is thousands of people. And it's by all means and any means necessary. When the sisters from the soldiers of God need me, I'ma stand with them. Stand with them. Because people need to speak up. This reminds me so much of abuse. That stuff. They hold on to that stuff. You get sick from that stuff. You have nervous breakdowns from that stuff. Your mind go through some things. You got to release this stuff. This is not the kind of energy you want to hold on to. Because when we hold on to this kind of energy, to the people that want it, they are like succumbs. They want to just drain you, and then they want to play those type of mind games. Well, I'm divorcing them, but I'll give her a call. Just keep you sucked in. To keep you sucked in. Take your energy back. Take your freedom back. Don't allow them to have that. And once again, this goes out, including to any of the Hebrew Israelites, male or female. You ready to get up out that thing. You need to talk to somebody. You got a few brothers right here in the soldiers of God that's dealing with that has dealt with. They know much more than I because they've been in this thing. But people, we got to wake up. We got to put some stories out there because once again, like I say, no matter what they say, no matter what they get on social media and clown about, rebuttal, debunk, and all these other things, respond to, the The one thing that they can never debunk is your journey, your walk, your truth, and your knowledge. They can't debunk that because it's story time and it's your story. You be the one to tell it. Don't let somebody else tell it because they'll tell it full of lies. You tell your own story, you're going to tell the truth. I'm done so real.
Miss Mary, I truly thank you for just taking out this time to really just lay out there of the viewers, and especially if there's any kind of Israelite wives who are caught up in this and they don't know any other way out, or they don't know anyone that is pretty much going through the same exact thing, and there's not enough outcall or outcry. You know, they've heard your voice tonight, and I really want to thank you for just sharing part of your story. This is just one part of many that are to come. My whole
Yeah.
reason why I'm doing this is because, as I've said before, all of these stories that I've heard throughout these past months, like I said, I'm big on patterns. And this is going to be one of many videos that will be in a whole line showing the, a lot of the very similar things that you've said tonight. I know right now a lot of people perhaps won't be able to see this until they'll be able to compare video 2 to video 1, and video 3
Right.
to video 2 and 1, and 4 to 3, 2 and 1, and then perhaps if enough patterns are seen, then maybe there might be a bit more of a pause and a second look that might take place before
Yeah.
there's these constant conversion stories continue to happen. But other
Yeah.
than that, I'm gonna go ahead with that note and end this live hangout. You know, if you have been listening to this and you've been edified by this, if you want to leave any kind of comments, and above all, please email us. You know, email me at ssoreal@gmail.com if you've heard anything in this presentation today that actually can be added as a pattern to certain things that you've experienced by the IUIC code. Please definitely contact us. Contact Soldiers of God. Just know that you are not alone, and wherever you are, we are out there and we are praying for you, and that Christ loves you, and that He died for you, that you may have life and life more abundantly. So,
Amen.
with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and end this. All of you have a wonderful night, and till we
You
meet
do the
again,
same. Peace and blessings to everybody.
peace and blessings, everybody. All right.